Welcome, everyone, to Friday 15 with Master B2B. My name is Brian Beck. I'm here with Andy Hoar, my partner in our Master B2B thought leadership and e-commerce community. Andy, welcome to Friday.
Yeah, band sounds good. It sounds like they're back in business. Got some sleep,
They are, man. They're
ate some
back in
food.
action. That's right. I need some sleep and some food. Anyway, welcome, everyone, to Friday 15. Another week of fun and exciting adventures. We've got a cool topic we're going to revisit today. We've talked about it a few times in our Friday 15s in the past, and that's all about marketplaces. But before we get to that, I want to talk about hey, wrong button, hour.
So, what excited today, aren't they? The band.
Yeah, the band is very excited. They want to keep on playing. Our breaking news. Here we go. Andy, I don't know if you saw, but Amazon CEO Andy Jassy released his annual shareholder letter. They've been doing this since day one with Jeff Bezos, all the way back, 30 years ago now. And it's always an interesting letter to read and to take away. And what he talked a lot about is AI, of course, but their investments into kind of the physical infrastructure, the chips, et cetera. And the market's actually reacting, well to this. So what he did was he dismissed fears of an artificial intelligence bubble in this letter. He talked a lot about their commitment. When they first announced $200 billion during their earnings call, $200 billion in AI investment in 2026, this year, 1 year. The market did not like it. The stock went way down. But since then, it's really recovered. And some of that has to do, of course, with world events and things. But the stock market does seem to be believing the story now. And one of the quotes, which was interesting that I saw, there is so much demand for our chips that it's quite possible we'll sell racks of them to third parties in the future. Andy, this is the same playbook. That was a quote in his letter. This is the same playbook they've taken across multiple businesses. AWS, of course. Fulfillment, making that available now to companies outside of their infrastructure. So outside of their core business on the retail side, they are doing this consistently. They're building for their own business and then rolling it out publicly. What's your take?
Well, I can't speak to the infrastructure as a service potential here, but I will say just because he says something doesn't make it so, because at the very same time, I just saw this article yesterday, Oracle lost financing for a data center build. Now, think about that for a second. Oracle's spending oodles of money. I think that's one of the safest bets on the planet right now is to invest in a data center build. There's to quote Andy Jassy, unbelievable demand for this, right? But there's been a lot of pushback by financiers around what's the long-term opportunity here. Are we going to monetize this thing? There are political issues where people don't want data centers built in their backyard.
Right.
So again, it's fine for Andy Jassy to say that. We'll see if it turns out to be the case. Because at the same time, I saw other articles. Meta laid off 20% of its workforce. Microsoft announced yesterday they're buying out 7% of their workforce. There's just a lot of stuff going on here that is not pointing to any particular conclusion. So executives can say what they want. They can even say Wall Street loves it. Let's see.
Dude, $200 billion, man. That's real money. I mean, that's a commitment by any company, right? So, we'll see how it plays out, of course. But the market seems to like it, at least as of now. Well, we're going to get into our topic here in just a second, but before we do that, Andy, I wanted to give another quick sort of public service announcement. Everyone who is a community or not yet a community member of Master B2B who is listening to our podcast, we'd encourage you to check out our forum. It is a free online network available for B2B executives. It's only practitioners. And it is a wonderful place to interact with your peers and to network, to find out about open jobs, to post open jobs, to talk about approaches and technologies that are working or not working. If you have any questions, I mean, gosh, just this week, Andy, we had quite a few questions posted on different topics related to everything from ERP to new solutions people are looking for. So encourage you to take a look at that. Go to masterb2b.com, look for forum, and go ahead and submit your application to join, and we'll take a look at that. But please check that out. So, Andy, our topic today is one that's near and dear to my heart. I spent a lot of time talking about and with this marketplace model. And we're going to talk today about, should B2B companies launch their own marketplaces? Now, let's define that. This is what we call a company-owned marketplace, which is different than a marketplace that is run by a company such as Amazon or Alibaba or others, where there's a lot of what we call horizontal, transactions that are across a lot of different categories. We're talking about, manufacturers and distributors integrating, launching or integrating a marketplace model into their business that can be a part of or distinct from their e-commerce business. And so the question is, should B2B companies launch their marketplaces? And frankly, this has been a very hot area, both in the investment community and amongst companies over the past 7 or 8 years. Really, it was really hot about 3 or 4 years ago, Andy, right? 2021, 22, 23, where a lot of companies were investigating this model. We heard about it constantly at our events. Oh, I'm launching a marketplace, or I'm investigating launching a marketplace. There are companies, platforms that have raised billions, I think, right, in capital to enable this. But it's been really quiet the last 2 years. Now, of course, you hear lots of news about how successful marketplaces are. In fact, I found this data yesterday, Andy, from Mordor Research, 2025 numbers. 65% online marketplaces are now accounting for 65% of B2B e-commerce, with projected growth at almost 14% on a CAGR basis through 2031. But most of the volume is done by these large horizontal marketplaces. It's all, Tmall, Taobao, Amazon, JD.com, companies like that. So it's really not, from a volume perspective, the company-owned marketplaces that are driving that. Does that matter? I'm not sure. But any commentary on that, Andy?
2 words for you: critical mass. Without it, there is no business. And so the question has always been, and I've said this for years, who can build critical mass? And you mentioned Taobao, Tmall, Amazon, Alibaba.
Right.
These guys have critical mass. So can your average, let's take the extreme example. I've debated this one before. Can a small niche distributor
Mm-hmm.
create critical mass such that they can actually own, operate, monetize a marketplace? I've argued for years the answer to that is no. I
Right.
think you have to be a large manufacturer where you have a channel and a well-developed channel. And so I think this is just bearing that out.
Totally disagree. I don't actually. I think I do. I think, and that's what's so fun about our Master B2B series. And the reason, and I don't think it's about critical mass, unless you are a a horizontal marketplace like an Amazon. I think it's more about the challenges come more from the complexity of the model to execute, and we'll talk about that in a second, Andy. And I think it's better for distributors. This is where I disagree with you. You think it's better for a manufacturer. I think it's a better model for a distributor to use because of the nature of the business model of the distributor. But let's go into what's.
This reminds me, there's a B2C parallel here. There's an analog. It reminds me, and that's why I think it's unknown right now. It reminds me of the specialty retailers like the REIs, the Best
Sure.
Buys of the world.
Yeah.
Which you remember back in the day, they were all the rage in B2C because they're going to do well. Because REI sells specific items and you go there with a purpose, and it's a lifestyle brand, etc.
Yeah.
Best Buy, same way, right? I'm going there to buy electronics. I can buy those electronics at Walmart. I can buy them at Target, but I'm going to get them at Best Buy because they're specialists in this area. The picture's been mixed about whether that's successful or not. Whereas like Walmart is maybe a horizontal marketplace, done pretty well. So I think you have to be really specialized, but you have to have a critical mass within a narrow market, or you have to critical mass within a broader market. But the point is, you have to have the ability to create critical mass. You have to have the ability to attract people to your venue, your online or offline venue. And I think there are a lot of B2B companies, especially small distributors, that think, oh, we can do it. And I'm like, no, you can't.
Well, I think, I do agree with you that it's extraordinarily complex and there's multiple aspects of it, which critical mass is a part of that within say the vertical. It's critical mass in so many different aspects. And what does that critical mass mean? I think that can actually vary. Critical mass, you can talk about product selection, you can talk about traffic and volume to the site. Let's take a quick look at this, Andy, because I think this summarizes it well. E-commerce versus marketplace. Traditional e-commerce is a model where a B2B company is selling to their customers, on a platform. It's a sort of a single-sided business model in the sense that, I'm going to sell my products that I own, whether I'm a manufacturer or distributor, to that, to those customers. And so it doesn't require multiple sellers. It doesn't require, management of multiple accounts and on the selling side. It's you are the seller. Whereas in a marketplace, there's two sides to it. So you have the customers. This is your, this is part of the critical mass stuff you're talking about, I think. You've got the customers you need to get to the website, which is the marketplace. But then you also have all these sellers that you need to recruit and to manage. And so it's not just one side. It is double the complexity in terms of the buying and selling. So the complexity applies now as much to the selling side as it does the buying side. Technology, let's think about that for a moment. There's now well-established best practices for e-commerce, direct e-commerce. Many of them we learned in the B2C side. But there's platforms now that are quite robust, as from your paradigm research, that can support that. The marketplace model, there are also platforms, but the complexity on the technology side goes up by an order of magnitude because now you have to have technology to manage fulfillment that's being done by other people. Sellers that need to be monitored and they need to be able to upload inventory and maintain their seller pages and product listings and all these other things. So the complexity on the technology side is much higher. Think about fulfillment, Andy, right? I mean, when I'm shipping in e-commerce, I'm shipping directly to an end buyer. In marketplace, I'm likely reliant on some of my sellers on my marketplace to do that fulfillment. Oh, what can go wrong there? Right? I mean, and this is why Amazon is so, I live this with my company in SIBA where we manage these programs. And, it's amazing how much process and workflow that Amazon has put into managing the fulfillment side of Amazon.
And that's the backside. On the front side, the onboarding is just as complicated.
That's right. That's
And
right.
so, it sounds great. We can have this big marketplace where buyers and sellers are together, kumbaya, unicorns, everything is going to be wonderful, except, if you don't have buyers, the sellers don't matter. And if you can't do the operational, fulfillment, the onboarding, all the nuts and bolts, blocking and tackling, every other cliche out there. If you can't do that, which by the way are time and resource intensive, then none of the stuff matters. So it really is kind of a natural monopoly in a way. You have to be a certain size to have a certain scale or have a hell of a draw. So I was thinking, by the way, back to my specialty retailer analogy, it's been a mixed picture because remember Toys R Us? They specialized in toys. Presumably, if you thought toys, you were going to go to Toys R Us's website, right? They had the ability to create critical mass within a narrow category. Well, wasn't really it wasn't really successful. Walmart and Amazon still ate their lunch as a horizontal marketplace. So I think that analogy holds. You're going to have some that do it well, some that hang in there, and some that completely fail. That's exactly what we've seen with specialty retailers, right?
Well, yeah, no, it's true. It's a good analogy, Andy. And I mean, I think to your point, to me, the critical mass comes in the resourcing and the investment required to try to pull this off. I mean, just think about the data side of it too, right? I mean, you're now reliant on other people putting data on your website. If it's truly a marketplace, sales model, you have to recruit customers, to your point, but you also have to recruit sellers. You need selection if you're going to make this marketplace model work, you have to have a sales effort and an onboarding effort for those sellers. I mean, Amazon has thousands of people that recruit, people to sell products on the marketplace. That is constantly underestimated. And then the organizational needs are extraordinarily complex. So, and this bears out in the numbers, Andy. I went back and found a report from Forrester from 3 years ago, 2023. That showed they did research on companies that had launched marketplaces. More than half of respondent firms spent more than $3 million or more on launching marketplaces. This is a survey of over 100 companies that had launched marketplaces. Nearly 2/3 of those respondents took 6 months or more to launch their marketplaces, some as much as 2 years. This is complicated. What I'm not, for those of you who can see this, I'm not showing here is another data point which would show that the biggest underestimation area was resourcing, and particularly on the seller onboarding side and management side. So and then you ask the question, is it all worth it? Right? Does the model actually deliver ROI? And here's the funny thing, Andy. So that same study 3 years ago said, here's what the decision makers thought would be driving ROI: increased sales, ability to scale the business without increasing headcount, increased product assortment, availability, etc. But I can't find a freaking single stat anywhere that says, does anyone actually realize this? Some of the companies that do marketplace platforms, I scoured their sites. I'm looking for something. So if somebody's listening here, hello, send me something, please, because we'll talk about it. But we can't find any evidence that this is driving ROI. I don't know. What's your take?
I have a suspicion the reason why is because the problem is the I part. Because if you're going to build one of these things, you just pointed out, it takes a lot of money. And so the time frame for the return is pretty long. And so I bet we're in that window where they can't tell you whether there was an ROI because the I is still big, and they're still trying to amortize the I part of it.
Right. The R part. And so I think part of what I want to discover and through our community, we have companies in our community that have launched these models, 3M, Schneider Electric, others that have launched Partstown. That I think this model does still have promise in certain categories. And so I'm not quite ready to declare what Andy, you are declaring, or maybe you aren't. I don't know. Is this the death of the B2B marketplace? Right? They like my
for the record, I had nothing to do with this. You put this together to bait me.
Come on, this is Hoarian, man. This is true Andy Hoar.
I'm not. I have nothing to say about that. I'm not here to pronounce marketplaces alive or dead. I do think, though, that there are. Maybe this is an argument that people would make. There are benefits to having a marketplace that go beyond the financial side of this thing, right? You solve a channel conflict issue because a lot of places, manufacturers don't want to sell direct because then they're competing with their distributors. Well, if you have a marketplace, you take the money and the distributors fulfill it. So you thread the needle on that. So there's that value. There's also the data value for a manufacturer, right? Being able to get direct access to sell through because you're sort of running this thing. Those things have an incalculable value that goes beyond just how much money did you make in the marketplace.
I'm going to spend $5 million to put a store locator on my site. That makes a lot of sense, Andy.
Well, and companies have done that, right? And they have to manage.
I know they have, and it's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Well,
go ahead.
No, well, plus keep in mind too that set up your own marketplace could blunt some of the effect of people going to Amazon, right? So there's another non-price benefit of having a marketplace. By the way, it has nothing to do with I'm saying is the investment may have a broader return than just financial.
Maybe. Yeah, I know, and I'm with you. And look, here's okay. So we asked our community, right? Should B2B companies launch their own marketplace? It's completely split. Well, 50-50. Yeah, great model, said 50%. No, way too complex, said 50%. So I like what our friend Tim Lavender, Mr. AI, director of e-commerce, now at Christian Book. He was at QXO, he was at Beacon, he's been in this industry a long time. He said, can you add an it depends option, please? And I think he's right, Andy, because I really do think it depends. I believe, my personal take on this, distributors, it makes sense for an expanded assortment option. They have the foundation of e-commerce. They've already invested in the platforms. They have a relatively, in many cases, sophisticated team, particularly the bigger ones, and they can support a more complex and sophisticated model like this. I don't think it makes as much sense for a manufacturer. I know you don't agree with me, but the manufacturers, and if you guys disagree with me, please, throw me some comments. But at the end of the day, it is a number one. It's a way to say you're avoiding channel conflict, which is just a glorified store locator. And number two, it's a way for them. It's a slope. It's not slippery slope. It's a slope though down to path of direct selling on e-commerce. Why spend all this money on a marketplace and just go suck it up and go directly into selling e-commerce? Channel conflict is not as bad as you think it is. I rest my case.
Yeah, I think there are going to be some people who disagree with
great. Bring it on. Disagree with me. I love it. Tell me why.
Starting with me.
Fine. Okay.
No, look, I mean, I will say distributors are already marketplaces. I mean, by definition.
Exactly. Exactly.
Except, that's what they do. They run a marketplace. And for a lot of those guys, what do the margins look like? They don't control the inventory. There's a lot of stuff that I shouldn't say they do control the inventory. They don't necessarily control the market. They don't control the competitive nature of things. So Granger, has this marketplace called their website where they're sourcing stuff from suppliers who are also going to other places, right?
Right.
And so it's a race to the bottom on margin. I mean, it always has been. So that's why these guys are adding services, etc. Whereas if I'm a brand manufacturer like 3M, I want to control where my products go. I want to work with top tier resellers, distributors, wholesales, etc. And I want the data and I want to make some money on the long tail. A marketplace is exactly what that does for 3M. Granger's already a marketplace. So I don't think adding a marketplace
That's called an
to what they're
intelligent
doing.
Dude, that's called an intelligent distribution strategy, not launching a marketplace. So take those same millions in resources and put them towards things that are going to produce for your business. You channel enablement for sure. Entering new channels. Go sell on the horizontal marketplaces. It's there. It's proven. The volume's there. The demand's there. And not only that, they become search engines. So you're losing relevance. So anyway, you
And
give
by the
me
way,
started.
I'm
Go
a
ahead.
fan of manufacturers selling direct, but I think having a marketplace is a good way to thread the needle on the channel conflict issue, which has not gone away. And look, we know that distributors, for example, and resellers and wholesalers are fighting back against the brand manufacturers by having private label.
Andy
So
Hoar's you going to start a PE fund so you can thread that needle with billions in cash? Go
I
ahead, man.
think it works. I think it works.
Okay.
And
All right.
I think it's a multi-dimensional strategy where you do some selling direct, which is a manufacturer selling their own stuff through their own marketplace. You have
Yeah.
distributors that you're threading the needle with, where you take the money and then you have them actually fulfill it. And then you have scenarios where the distributor basically takes the lead. I think all three of those scenarios and more work. It's a multi-dimensional approach.
Yes.
But I think removing the marketplace dimension from that doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. All right. So Andy's fund is now open for all you who want to invest. The Andy Hoar Partners LLP is ready for venture investing. So anyhow, well, folks, we got to leave it there for the discussion today. This has been a fun one, Andy. I love it when we disagree on something. It's really, really cool. Folks, take a look at your Master B2B Nexus, our Nexus program. It's on our website. It is your personal digital lifeline. It's a paid service for practitioners. We have a panel of industry experts as well as a huge network of practitioners we make available to you on demand to answer your questions and really get you the right answers and avoid risk in your business. And finally, I want to remind everyone that our Friday 15 is available in podcast form on your favorite podcast service. Please give us a review. We would appreciate that greatly. Andy, any final words? I'm giving you the mic so you can put me to shame here. Go ahead.
No, I think not. I think we've addressed the issue completely and fully, and we'll never talk about marketplaces again, right?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, we need to get some folks on here who've launched them, and I want to talk to them. That's the next step. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We will see you on our next Friday 15.